that's a labor of love for sure. So I've done 3 cookbooks thus far. Patty's Mexican Table is my first one. I think I pitched it to 39 places before the 40th said yes, because there were too many Mexican cookbooks out there. And I had a mission, and I had a style. Like, my thing was, I love Mexican family style cooking, and I want to show that Mexican food is not an artifact in a museum, and I want to show how it can enrich anyone's lives. And you can find all these ingredients, and Mexican food is easy and accessible. You can dress it up all or down. You can repurpose it. You can customize it. And I think everybody, not only Mexicans, can benefit from it. So it was like, in a way, my way to contribute to my new home. And I think that's the plight of the immigrants, is to share your treasures with your new home, because that's the way you can contribute to your new place, and you can honor where you come from, and there's no contradiction. And so that's what I tried to do in my first cookbook. My second cookbook, I got very excited with the reception of the first cookbook, and there was the Taco Tuesday hashtag starting, and I was like, oh, people like Taco Tuesday, let's do Enchilada Tuesday, Wednesday, and tamal or tamale Thursday, or pozole Friday. Jueves pozolero. And so that book, I did it by theme. So it was like a chapter on tamales, a chapter on tacos, and I think people like I went back on this one too, because if you buy a piece of chicken, like, where do you go? Tamales or tacos, or, I think the organization of this one takes me to my third cookbook, where I was like, I want to go deeper and really capture the DNA of the different micro, regional, and regional cuisines of Mexico. And I didn't realize how tough that task was. And I started with a list of like 1,000 recipes I wanted to do, and I had to pare down to 120. And it was challenging. It took me 4 years. The pandemic hit me in the middle. And I remember one day just sitting in my backyard crying, looking at the sky, and my middle son asking me, and I was like, I'm never gonna finish this thing. And I love it so much now, but I was hating it then. But I think it's a treasure. Like, every recipe in there is a treasure. And it's hard to choose. It's hard to choose. Um, you need to balance it. You can't have 50 beef recipes and 3 chickens. You need to have, it has to be balanced. You have to choose if you're going to do drinks or not. I chose not to have drinks on this one because um, I love having a drink as an experience, but it's not like I'm a mixologa, I'm not a mixologist. And then I'm working on a fourth cookbook that's been taking me like 3 years now. It's coming out 2026. And it's really hard. It's really hard because once you do something that you like, the next thing that you do, you want to do better. And you want to do better head notes, and you want to do better stories, and you want to make sure that each recipe really works in whichever altitude. So you need to test it, hopefully in different kitchens, and friends and family can help you test too. But actually, it's been so hard to work on my cookbooks, although I know there's people in my field who pump out cookbooks a year. I don't know how they do it. Like, I take off my hat. It takes me like 3-4 years for each one. But I just came out with how to write a cookbook a workbook. I partnered with Levenger, and I think it was as hard as working on a cookbook. Like putting all the lessons learned, everything I've wanted to know about how to write a cookbook. Like, if I had known, it would have been easier. Like, how to write a pitch, like, like things that you wish somebody had given you a little guide, like how to write a pitch, how to find your niche. Like, is it something that you want to self-publish? How do you go out and find a publisher? Like, do you want photos? Do you want what do you call it? Como grafiquitas, no animaciones, pero como mapas or
like graphics.
Graphics. And balancing it out. Like, do you start writing the recipes, or do you pitch a list of it? So anyway, like, do you want it to be a cookbook to share your family's recipes? Do you want it for your community? Do you want it for your church? Or do you want it because you're passionate about tamales and you want all the tamales that people should taste, you know? It's hard to choose. In no other network and no other media that does travel or food could I do these. You know, there's cookie cutter shows. They're trying to reach an audience. They're trying to get impressions. I'm trying to educate. I'm trying to educate myself. I'm trying to really, it's not change the narrative that exists because I don't agree with it. No, it is like sparking, like igniting conversations around things that people believe are, and just like having new dialogues, like having new lights be shown on things that people have ideas on. Like the Black Canadian story, it is mostly a happy story. It is quite incredible. The grandpa that I interviewed first, and I talked to him about, or was there division, was there, and he's like, oh, none of that BS here. Like, we had a really diverse school with Ukrainians and French and German and Latinos, and just, it is so refreshing. The idea of having Patty's Mexican Table, have it be a cooking travel show. And we pitched the Food Network, and a producer wanted to pitch the show, and they pitched, and they wanted me to do a pan Latin show. Like, oh, you'll do all Latin cuisines, you'll be an ambassador to all of Latin America. And I was like, how? I haven't even visited those countries, And no, I'm not gonna do Mexican light. You don't want to eat Mexican light. Like, you want to jump into that Mexican bowl of pozole. You don't want it, like, Yeah. And I feel like I've always believed in longevity, in the long term, in being proud about the content that you do, so that whenever you look back, mostly I have three big boys. Carrie was just listening to the feedback that my youngest was giving me on the third episode of Panamericana, like really incredible feedback, honest feedback, and I want them to be proud, and that's why I love working with PBS, because it's about the content. Did you see the episode on Whitehorse with so the second episode, I go from Juneau, Alaska, to Whitehorse in the Yukon territories. I had never even been to those places or heard about the Yukon or heard about Whitehorse in those sister cities, and I crossed the US Canada border, which after crossing the US Mexico border 1,000 times, I was like, what is this? This is too easy. Seamless, gorgeous view. No one's stopping me. Like, hello, Mexican crossing here. It was so funny. But we went to this glass blowing studio in Whitehorse, and I really want this Panamericana series to be a show about sharing lessons learned. And this is a glass blowing studio that a woman started after her young son died of cancer. And she had to do something radical to work through her pain. And she realized that working with glass, you're there with temperature of like 1800 degrees, and you're forcing like thing becomes something else, and like that was healing for her, and she started inviting people from the community to work through their emotions or pain through glass blowing, and it's become a lighthouse in the community, and they've embraced like the homeless people that are around Whitehorse, and she gives homeless people. We met this man named Stuart. Um, she gives them glass hearts to give away. So you see him, you think he's gonna come ask for something, and he gives you a glass heart. Wow. It's transformed him. It's transformed the community, and this is a man that comes from a community that has been torn. You know, his family part of the 60s scoop, forced adoption, and you know, it's just really tough stories. She emailed me and she said, Patty, we're getting so many orders for glass hearts from the US, and I'm just adding more glass hearts to the orders to give back. And it's when you're like, wow, it was worth it, you know? If we can learn about how others are dealing with the essential themes of our times, then we have an idea of how to tackle those things ourselves. As a Mexican, that is now a Mexican American, that comes from a long line of migrants that wanted to come to the Americas because they were looking for a better life, freedom, safety. Mexicans have long admired the US for the strength of its democratic institutions, for public media. You know, it represents, public media is such a pillar of what the United States of America represents as a light in the world. And I think it's something others aspire to and other countries would love to have. And I think it's something that really differentiates this country from others. And because this content can be seen in rural communities, in ranch farmland, in metropolitan cities, rich, poor, young, old. And I really, that is something that has differentiated the US from the rest of the world. And I hope it continues to.